is Reverend Ahmondra coming to you live today. I just want you to take a deep breath right now. Let it out. And just be grateful that we're here right now together. Blessings to you this morning. I want to tell you a quick story. You know I love stories. There was an older woman of Chinese descent. And every day she used to go down to the stream to get water. And she'd put one bucket on this side of a long stick and the other bucket on this side. Well, one of these buckets was perfect, but the other bucket had a slight crack in it. And every day she'd go down to the stream and she'd put water in these two buckets. And by the time she got back home, she only had 1.5 buckets of water, because one bucket would allow a half of its content to just dribble out on the path. Day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, she went to the stream. And this bucket with the crack started feeling really, really bad. The bucket was ashamed. It wasn't living up to its potential, and it just couldn't take it anymore. And the bucket that had all the water, it had it, everything was going on. So one day, this poor bucket with the crack talked to the lady. The bucket said, I am so sorry that I'm not living up to my potential. I'm not serving you the way that I know I could serve you. Please forgive me. And the lady looked at the bucket and she said, don't you see all of those beautiful flowers that are on the side of the path where you're on? She said, I understood that you could help me with that crack that you had. So I planted seeds for flowers. And every day for 2 years, you have watered those flowers. And as a result of that, I pick flowers every day and I put them on my table. Without you watering those flowers, I wouldn't have the beauty that I have in my home. Sometimes we focus on what we think are flaws, but they're not really flaws. It's how we look at them. Today, my talk is called When Hindsight Becomes Insight. We've all heard that saying, hindsight is 20/20 vision. I don't know who said that, but for me, hindsight has always caused me sorrow, put it like that, because I always look back and come up with these ideas of what I could have done, should have done, and it never serves me. So over the years, what I have learned to do is to turn what might usually have been hindsight into something that I call insight. But let's look at hindsight for a minute. When we make what I call a hindsight declaration, a lot of times I've become filled with regret and anguish and sadness, and then I get stuck in that place, like the pot was stuck in that place, thinking that this thing that I did, this decision that I make, this way that I act is actually not the best that I could be. And we actually end up being in these deep emotional holes when we look back and we judge with hindsight. Then we begin to try to cover up those feelings, and we cover them up with different types of behaviors. One behavior is that we become controlling. We try to control all of our environments and the people in the environment so that what happened in the past won't happen again. We develop sometimes addictive behaviors. We become workaholics, like I'm going to work really, really hard so I won't get that kind of evaluation anymore. When the evaluation didn't have anything to do with you, it had to do with the person that was making the evaluation. Or we get into eating or drinking or whatever it is. Because we're holding those feelings inside, we try to cover them up because they don't always feel good. They turn into self-loathing. They turn into self-criticism. We stop taking chances. We stop doing new things because we look back and we say, oh, I shouldn't have done that way. I'm not going to do that anymore. We stop trusting certain type of people, certain situations, and we put out so much energy unnecessarily. Like that pot. That pot for 2 years put out all that energy thinking that it was not serving this lady. And all along, it was serving her in a very powerful way. I wanted this job one time. I was financially strapped, but I was in a training program that was going to take me to my perfect job. I wanted to open a child care center, and I was in a training program for that, but they were only paying me a small stipend. And I decided that I needed to make money. So I decided to apply for this job. I applied for the job, and I didn't get it. And when a letter came in the mail saying, that letter, I'm sorry you didn't get it, I just burst out crying. And I spent all this energy. Oh, I messed up the job interview. Maybe I should have taken different references. Maybe I should have dressed differently. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. I spent all of this energy looking back at that job interview and allowing it to impact where I was right now. I totally forgot that I was working on a dream. I totally forgot that God was right there with me, helping me work on this dream. This job that I was trying to go after was not going to take me to where I wanted to go. Finally, I got it, but I didn't get it in the moment. In the moment, I spent all of this energy being sad and feeling not qualified. When in that moment, I could have turned what I was declaring as hindsight into insight. I could have said, oh, you know what? I didn't get that job because I'm working on something right here. That this thing that I'm working on right here, I have help. God's helping me with this. So whatever money that I need, I'm going to have that money. And that's exactly what happened. I was able to complete that program and open that infant care center and live the dream. So sometimes with hindsight thinking, we forget that God's right there with us. I want us to take a small few minutes and just look at how hindsight thinking has applied in our lives. I want you to just look and see, is hindsight thinking controlling your life? Because you look back and you made a decision about what happened and you're allowing that decision to influence you right now? What about second guessing? What about using a measuring stick from today to judge what happened yesterday? I remember my mother used to tell me, you can only make the best decision that you can make in the moment with the information that you have. She would say, don't look back and make a different decision because the past has already occurred. And you did whatever you did in that moment. And guess what? There is a blessing inside of that decision. You have to stop and you have to look for it. And that's what I'm talking about this morning. changing hindsight thinking into insight thinking, changing the way we look at life, we relate to life. Instead of looking at life with physical eyes, how about we look at life with spiritual eyes? Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, describes seeing with spiritual eyes this way. It's seen above and beyond appearances to the truth in every circumstance. We exercise control over how we respond to situations. We really do. We have that type of control. He also says, it is seeing spirit at the center of all things. When things are going well and when things may not be going according to the way we think they should be going. We can relax and know there's a power and a presence at work right there in the moment. The third thing that Ernest Holmes says about spiritual eyes is that it is seeing possibility rather than limitation. We see the good that's occurring right here, right now, instead of looking back and only seeing the good in the future or the present because we're looking back at what we did there. How about seeing the good right here, right now? No matter what's happening, we understand and know that there's a blessing right here, right now, no matter what it looks like. Insight thinking means that we stop and pay attention to what's happening. That pot did not even see those beautiful flowers along the side of the road that it was watering every day because it was so focused on dripping the water. How many times in our life are we so focused on something that we call a flaw that we don't see that we are actually being a blessing in someone's life? And that what we calling a flaw is not really a flaw. So, how do we see with spiritual eyes? We practice faith. But I have a different definition of faith that I like to use. My definition is finding answers in the heart. Faith. It's connecting with our hearts because that's where spirit is. The heart is an energy center. And when we connect with that energy center, we're actually connecting with the power and presence of the universe. That's our divine self. We gain wisdom when we connect with our heart space. We begin to feel the gratitude that's for the things that's all around us. We begin to see goodness everywhere because goodness is everywhere. Faith, finding answers in your heart, allows us to actually go within for guidance before we leap to conclusions. Now, unfortunately, we're usually looking with our physical eyes. And then we make judgments that don't serve us. We look back, we make a judgment. That's not serving us right here in the present time. We become followers. We go behind other people because we think that what they are doing is better than what we can do for ourselves. Basically, we give up our control. We follow our minds and the thoughts in our minds without us being conscious of those thoughts. Some of you have heard me say in the past that I do not allow my conniving mind and my lying eyes to hook up with each other. Because when they do, the mind tells me that I am seeing certain things, and those certain things that I'm seeing don't always serve me. My mind is an amazing information place. I can go there to pull out information and knowledge, facts and figures that will help me. But when I want inspiration, I do not go up here. There is no inspiration up here. Inspiration lives in my heart. When I want wisdom, I go to my heart space. My heart space will allow me to see what it is I need to be doing right here in this moment. We are living in some challenging times. This whole year has been turned upside down, and many of us have been challenged with the new normals. And I say that when we stay in our heart center and don't live up here, don't allow these here to guide you, we get guidance and wisdom. One of the guidances that I received was that I needed to pull away from all social media. I needed to pull away because this up here, these thoughts and these eyes, they were connecting up together and they were conjuring up all kinds of information and making all kinds of judgments and leading me down a path I did not want to go down. Because at the end of that path, there was nothing that was going to serve me. And so I just pulled out. I just turned off the television, turned off the radio. And guess what? If something happens and I need to know about it, someone is going to call and let me know. And that's exactly what happens. But for me, I'm more at peace. I'm calmer, and I get to focus on something that I'm working on that's going to benefit me. Insight showed me that I needed to do something different, that the circumstances around me called for me to engage in a different type of behavior. And that different type of behavior was to turn off the media so that I wasn't receiving information that did not serve me in the present time. We have control, but only when we get guidance. We can follow our thoughts when we've allowed ourselves to stand in our heart space and allowed Spirit to help us get the thoughts in our consciousness that are going to move us forward. Insight thinking helps us meet today's challenges. It helps us with the new normal. We don't want to have hindsight thinking right now. We want to have insight thinking so that we can stand in a place of faith, finding the answers in our heart space. That will allow us to be joyous and free and happy and productive right here, right now. It will allow us to see how we're being a blessing to others. It will keep us from picking up the sticks in both hands and beating ourselves up because we think we did not do something right. Everything is right. We just have to take the time to sit quietly and ask from that heart space for guidance. I would like to leave you with a reading this morning. So I would ask that you just settle in. Allow your eyes to close if you choose to. but just relax. And in these couple of moments, allow yourself to go into that heart space and listen to these words. With faith, nothing is impossible for us. I use my faith to trust in the power and presence that is always here right now, even when I can't see where it is I am going. As I stand in faith, I discern the truth that is always here, even within the most difficult circumstances. As I speak with faith, my positive words express my belief in myself as a divine being connected to the creative force in the universe. As I act with faith, I know that I'm standing in the strength and fortitude that will help me face any challenge that may come my way today. Inspired by my faith, seeing with spiritual eyes, I move forward with confidence. Nothing is impossible for me because I know that I can meet spirit in my heart space. If your eyes are closed, you can allow them to open. So this week, I invite you to start seeing with your spiritual eyes and see what insights start coming to you from that heart space. Start paying attention to the comfort that might just come over you like a warm blanket in the wintertime. Start hearing that still small voice that is always talking to us. And the most important thing is follow the guidance. Whatever that guidance directs you to do, I say, trust, have faith that you will find the answers in your heart space, because that is where spirit resides within you. And you and spirit are co-creators in your world. Have a blessed week. I add a blessing to these words. I add a blessing to each and every one of you. And I say, thank you so much. And so it is.